Rock.
Another week, another Giants loss. Welcome back, everybody, to the NFC East Podcast. Joining me today, we have Dan, the Eagles fan. How you doing?
All day, no, bro. I'm telling you, where's one? The bye week by a million. Life can't be great. You know what I mean? Life is so great at this point, baby. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying life.
Yeah, this was kind of a sketchy week for a lot of the great teams in the NFL. A lot of teams we were discussing last week in our top 10 video. Eagles, like you said, are on the bye, so they get to kind of, float around this week and sustain the narrative around them. But the Packers, the
hmm
Colts, we've had some major upsets this week, and we're going to get into it game by game. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the Giants game. As we stated, the Eagles are on bye week, and the Cowboys are playing tomorrow night against the Cardinals. And tonight, we have the Commanders taking on the Seahawks. So that game is going to be going on during this stream. So perhaps at the end, we'll give a little halftime check-in. But other than that, let's get into it with the Giants game. They faced off against the 49ers. And this was a game that I thought we were going to win. Probably pretty optimistic on my end, but Dan, if I remember correctly,
I did too.
you thought we were gonna win too. So I guess actually I want to hear first. I want you to jog my memory on why you kind of thought we were gonna win, just so I
So
can
I
kind of
looked at
reflect
it.
off it.
Yeah. So I looked at this kind of game as a kind of like retribution game for the Giants to be like, hey, like we lost last week, we lost our guy, we lost our basically like the like not really the face because Dart's like the face, but it's like basically the tandem. Like you guys lost that, but you guys were like I felt like it was more of like we're still the New York Giants. So even though we come up to play a hurt Niners team, it's like we're not just gonna let ourselves lay down and get beat and just kind of get walked all over for the rest of the season. So I thought it was gonna be more of a statement game, just like we're still here, but you're lucky we're not fully here yet, kind of thing. But
Yeah,
didn't turn out.
and I thought the team all year actually has done like a fair job of at least coming out fired up, and I felt like you could see a little bit of that, but it definitely wore off as the game went on. The better coached team, in any given game is probably going to have a better second half than the opposing team. So we saw that a lot in this game, and something I certainly underestimated going into this was the matchup of Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, uh, you know, with them both being threats and in the run game and in the passing game versus our linebackers and safeties because Bobby Okereke's been having a down year and Darius
hmm
Musa is filling in for Micah McFadden, and we were
hmm
expecting them to play well against Christian McCaffrey. We're expecting Tyler Nubin, who's been struggling probably because of the linebackers too, but we're expecting him to take on McCaffrey one on one in the open field. Dane Belton, he's been promising, and he's still only like 24 years old, but it's like he's not a proven player nearly to the caliber of McCaffrey. So just that was something that throughout the entire game you could tell the Giants just didn't really have an answer for it, and it really stunted any Giants effort to come back and win this game late. The Niners were just able to convert third down after third down, and they had mistakes of their own too. Like they did have six penalties. Like the Giants weren't totally out of this game. They lost 34-10 or 34-24. So they lost by 10 points. But in this game on third down, the Niners were 11 for 6. The Giants were 5 for 12. It doesn't sound too different, but it really was the big explosive plays that they were converting first downs against us with. That really just kind of sealed it. Also for Jackson Dart, I thought he played pretty well in this game, kind of the same way we've been grading him as playing well like earlier, throughout this season. It does take into account that he was let down by Darius Slayton, who dropped a touchdown. Theo Johnson dropped a ball on third down. And it's just watching this team go through this. It's really upsetting because we also had a Graham Gano missed field goal, and we lost by 10. Now, I think that the Niners certainly took their foot off the gas a little bit, but it just goes to show how broken this Giants team is because it's if this during any given game, right? If we didn't miss that field goal, if we didn't have that one dropped pass, we do have like explosive plays on both sides of the ball. We have Dart on the defensive side, Burns turned a what would be pass into an interception for Abdul Carter. We've been having plays
Mhm.
like that throughout the year, but ultimately it's just what we've gone through in the past years. It's just more exciting this time, which I did want, and I think people are glad to see that. But this regime is just exhausting. I mean, whether you want to blame Shane or Dable or Joe Shane for this team being only this far along 4 years in, I think eventually you got to look at the whole picture, and you got to say, well, if we're doing this to protect Dart, I think Dart looks like he'll be good enough with another coach and another GM, and I think he would attract them. Beforehand, I wasn't so sure if there would be a good candidate available for the
Uh-huh.
Giants or if they would be an attractive spot for the top candidate. But I think with Dart, that could make us one of the best landing spots. So Dan, I'm not suggesting like we have to fire Brian Dable, but I'm certainly okay with it at this point if we just clean house. What do you think about that, Dan?
I mean, that's kind of what I stood on beforehand when we first were talking about it, whether if it was going to be in the middle of the season or if it was going to be towards the end of the season. I just think you guys kind of need a new type of mentality in there, kind of something just different. I remember when, we were living together and all of a sudden there was the Joe Judge era
Yeah.
and it was like that kind of like camaraderie. It was good. It was there, but it was like something was missing. Brian Dable came in, the mentality changed. Everything was good. You guys went to the playoffs, but then now it's not working. And then like this dude's turning redder than red on the sideline
Yeah.
when shit goes sideways. So it's kind of like when your coach is starting to like lose his ish and just get like absolutely irritated, it kills the mojo. And now it's like, you got Dart and he's like I know there was the memes about like yo he saved this like he was like bro you gotta save my job. I'm not gonna let Russ,
Yeah.
who just threw like two complete whiffs, like get the heck out the tent and let's get this shit going. But as far as Dable going, like I feel like it's needed personally. I think a new face needs to
Get
come
like
up. I don't
absolutely
know who'd be a
irritated.
good contender right now
Yeah.
because I'm not sure what jobs are available.
Yeah,
But
it's a really good question, but honest, I am genuinely looking at Clayton Adams of the Cowboys. If he was open to
mm,
a head coaching position, I think he's proven a lot. But I'd say that's enough about the Giants 49ers game. I think most people expected the Giants to lose. I thought the Giants had a chance in this one. There were a lot of things that hurt them in this game, but overall, the team is still almost overperforming because of Jackson Dart. So whatever we get for the rest of the season, it is what it is. The offensive line, if that stays healthy and Dart stays healthy going into next year, I think the Giants will be okay. Still hoping to see a little more out of Dexter Lawrence, though. All right, moving on to the next game, and this one is actually pretty amazing, and that is the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings facing off in JJ McCarthy's first start back from his injury, and the Vikings take the win 27-24 in this game. I noticed in this game, Brian Flores with the Vikings defense. They've had some injuries, but they're getting healthier, and this Jared Goff led Lions offense was looking pretty unstoppable with him and Gibbs, and it seemed like the coaches were replaced well, but especially early on in this game, this Brian Flores defense got a ton of pressure on Jared Goff, and he was like kind of a statue in there, and people were giving me a lot of heat for not having him in my top 10 quarterbacks list in the Baker Mayfield video. And I say, listen, I mean, if I'm gonna have this type of criticism of him and of Jalen Hurts, I gotta share it with Goff. But Jalen Hurts has actually won a Super Bowl, so that's why I give him that lead over Jared Goff, because I feel like even if Hurts has a bad game, he has still shown us that he will put it together and perform at his best when it matters most. Goff did do that in his first year, or in the first playoff run with the nine against the Niners. That was a good effort. But even then, I remember watching that game with Dan and thinking about, man, he can't extend the play for them. He can't extend out of Ben Johnson's play calling. And this is the
uh-huh.
Lions' biggest kryptonite, in my opinion, is when you can get pressure on Jared Goff. So the Vikings take an early lead and they're able to pull this one out. Dan, what were your thoughts on this game? I mean, this is a pretty meaningful loss in terms of how we view the top teams in the NFL.
And that's kind of how we talked about it beforehand when we were talking about the predictions coming into this week. Is like, what's the North really gonna look like? What's the statement gonna be in these two games coming up? I know we talked about the Eagles playing against the Packers and the Lions, but we also talked about what are the Lions going to look like to make that statement. And this is one of your statement games that you mentioned beforehand.
Yeah,
And it's like you're having a hard time beating, like, or you couldn't beat JJ McCarthy. Jameer Gibbs got shut down. Like all these
yeah,
players, like JMO got finally his release this week, but um, all these players that are like this team in general, like when you play somebody like the Rams, like the Eagles, and all these other NFC playoff teams that you're going to see coming up, then it's like, are you going to be able to compete? Because in reality, it's like we were just talked about beforehand. The NFC powerhouses being the Lions, the Eagles, the Rams, but to fall in a situation like this kind of gives that mojo to the Vikings to go to the playoffs, and like it makes me a little nervous for what the Lions might be able to do. Playoffs are still a ways away. But I was just completely shocked. Smart Shot 586, what's going on, man? How are you? Um, what's it called? Just overall shocked. Completely threw me off. But it also showed that they stopped Gibbs and Goff, and it was like the whole offense couldn't do
anything.
jack.
I mean,
There was but there was also no adjustment too. That was the thing that kind of threw me off, like how coaches, offensive coordinators are able to adjust on the fly when things are needed, and that really shows what's the really great teams compared to the good teams. But this wasn't like that.
yeah, and I think in this game, one key stat: Lions on third down, 5 of 17. Where the Vikings, they weren't that much better. They were 4 of 12 though, and they had a lot of big plays that got them in scoring position. And JJ McCarthy was getting outside the pocket. I'm not saying he was better than Jared Goff, but it's just like it brought that element to their offense to kind of escape some of that pressure. I mean, 5 of 17 is pretty bad on third down. It really highlights the amount of pressure they were getting on him. And I agree with you, Dan. This is a statement win for this Vikings team that with McCarthy, they can be like the Lions were 3-3 on fourth down, though. I should mention that. But that the Vikings can be a very, competitive team if they have just solid quarterback play because they have a great defensive coordinator in Brian Flores. And obviously, Kevin O'Connell has done a great job with the offense year in and year out. And look at how they handled this Lions team in situational football. The Lions were 1 for 3 in the red zone, so they were not converting for many touchdowns. They had to get it from explosive plays. The Lions had 10 penalties for 76 yards, setting them back on a lot of those third downs. And then when it came to sacks, the Lions were sacked 5 times, and so were the Vikings. But they were able to match that pressure against that Lions offensive line, which is, like we said, the key to beating and competing with this Lions team. Which we talk about the Eagles being able to do that. The Vikings aren't really a team that I would have put up there to be able to do that. So I'm very surprised. The NFC North at this point, Vikings are 4-4, so they are in fourth place. But Bears are 5-3, Lions are 5-3, the Packers are 5-2-1. And there's a lot they have to work on. I think it's not showing the division record, but either way, they're right there. They're a game behind being in second place and a half game behind first. So this Vikings team is totally back. This Bears team just looks kind of unsustainable. We'll get into that. And the Packers, we just saw what happened to them this week. But let's talk about that game. You want to talk about Panthers Packers, a game me and Dan were discussing pretty heavily during the prediction show, talking about how the Packers should cover this spread based on who they've been. And I have a lot of thoughts about this game. There was a lot of questions for me about my take on the Packers. And I came prepared for today's show.
I really hope. I'm telling you, I am so ready to hear this.
Right.
I am so ready.
Right. So the Packers lost this game in another way that was like the Browns, where it was just like you're playing like conservatively and your offense is just like really not converting in the most like crucial of situations, and you're playing your worst game. You're playing down to your competition, and that's something that is really starting to bother me about this Packers team. Now, to me, it doesn't bother me as much when it comes to like Super Bowl takes because they're not going to show up like that to the Detroit Lions. Like, I think we can agree it's just like the week-to-week consistency is more of the concern. But when it comes to this game, this was the things I highlighted, and is that they were bad situationally. The Panthers were 2-2 on fourth down, so that's obviously pretty huge. Those are essentially defensive turnovers because you should be getting the ball back. The Packers were 2 for 3 on fourth down, so they had essentially a turnover based off of that comparison. The Panthers were 2 and 3 in the red zone, so they were efficient when they got there. They scored 2 of the 3 times they got in there, and the Packers only scored 1 time out of 5. 7 penalties for the Packers to the Panthers 5, and 2 of those penalties gave Panthers first downs. So the Green Bay Packers defense allowed 160 yards on the ground, and that was really where, this conversion was coming from. Rico Dowdle is proving to be a very, very underrated running back in this league, and this Panthers run game is proving to be pretty unbelievable. I mean, Rico Dowdle broke a record, or not broke it, but he matched it with Josh Gordon since like 2011 as the only player to have like 250 scrimmage yards in back-to-back weeks. And we weren't sure if that was just that they played the Cowboys and then I think it was the Dolphins the week after. And, he was just feasting on volume. But no, Dowdle's looking like a really good running back because other than that, they only had 100 passing yards, the Panthers. So it was all this run game. And the Packers had 100 more yards of total offense. It was just that the Packers were 4 for 10 on third down, and that goes into all the things I said before about the penalties and things of that nature. There was only like 1 sack against the Packers. It was Tershawn Wharton, that free agent signing that they had. So this Panthers team, honestly, yeah, do I feel worse about the Packers? I do, but this Panthers team is now 5-4, and they're in second place in the NFC South over the 3-5 Falcons. And that makes them, depending on what happens with the Seahawks, a game behind them. They have 1 more loss than them. They're going to have a game, 1 more loss than the Lions, the Bears, and they would be in second place in the NFC East. So this Panthers team is actually pretty good. It's just when they don't have Bryce Young, they're terrible, and they played the Bills last week. But this is a similar caliber team, this Packers team, in my opinion, to the Bills. And they showed up today, and Dave Canales is doing a really good job with this offense and controlling this game. But, yeah, really disappointing for the Packers, and some serious questions are going to have to be answered in my top 10 list next week. So I 100% give that to you.
And I guess this is what really does get me about the game, and because this defense is known for the names and it's supposed to be so high, but they both allowed 1 sack. They both had an interception, but the Panthers were able to acquire a fumble recovery. So this is where I guess, I don't want to be like, oh my God, like did the Panthers defense really outdo the Packers defense? Is the Panthers defense better? Like, no, I'm not going to be like that. But my question is for all the names and the situation you're in, I know that people are going to be like, they held the Panthers to 16 points. You gave the Panthers 16 points. You know what I'm saying? And that's
offense.
Supposed to be on offense.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Is that in reality, if you're trying to be that Super Bowl team, guess what? The AFC, what's it called? Contenders that played last year against the Chiefs only let them get 9 and got 40 on their head. And now we're going to sit here to this Packers team who's supposed to be the Super Bowl contenders, and they were fighting for their lives this game. They were giving everything they had to do it, and now Kraft is hurt. The ACL tear, right? I believe it just got confirmed.
They fear it's an ACL tear, which means it probably.
Bro, freaking damn, bro.
It stinks. It stinks when it comes to Kraft, but Luke Musgrave is not as good as Tucker Kraft, but he's comparable, and I think as a team, they're not going to suffer too much. They're very deep everywhere. But losing him hurt. No, don't get me wrong. Actually, losing him hurts a lot. But they will be able to adjust in time for the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be like a liability. I mean, notice he's like schemed open a lot. Like they can do that with Musgrave.
Which to me now means that Golden needs to step up and be utilized a lot more than what it is. The receivers itself need to be utilized a lot. I know Watson was getting used a lot today, and he's been throwing to Dobbs, but I feel like Love has just developed that comfortability with those two receivers that he's not trusting Golden the way he is those other two guys and Jacobs and Kraft, but now Kraft is gone. So, back to my original point, it's like if this defense does not step up the way that it should be, like that's really who I have to blame, you know what I mean? And it's like, of course, like, can I not blame the offense for
Are you
only
not
being able to
more
score
upset with the
13?
offense for
Oh,
putting the
that's what I was
defense?
about to get.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was about to get to right now. Is like, of course I'm gonna go and give a little bit of ish to the offense too, because how is Jordan Love and this receiving core? I understand, Jaden Reed's hurt, but Christian Watson's able to get it done. Romeo Dobbs is able to get it done. Golden, you were a first round pick, and Josh Jacobs, we love you. So you should be able to produce productively against this Panthers defense that was shattered last week. I understand it was Andy Dalton, and now this week they got Bryce Young, but this is not.
I mean, the
Oh,
Bills' offense is in a very similar situation where they have James Cook, a great running back, but they don't have like a bona fide number one. They have Shakir, who's
they
kind of like Romeo Dobbs, and it's the same
Keon
thing.
Coleman
And they were able to expose this Panthers defense,
by a
like you
long
said, for
shot.
40 points. And I don't think that's all because of Josh Allen. I mean, Josh
Hmm.
Allen's amazing, but like this Packers team is like the offense, I feel like, has similar personnel. Maybe the Bills' O line is better, but it just seemed like Matt LaFleur, he had a bad day. I think he underestimated this Panthers team and was not aggressive enough. They did go for it 3 times on fourth down, but one of those was very costly. It was like kind of around midfield, and I believe the Panthers were able to get points off of that drive. So very unfortunate for the Packers, and yeah, it's question time for this Packers team. You've
And
had 2 of these losses now, where they're just completely inexplicable, and then you have the tie, but they haven't lost like a close game, and I don't love that.
and this, and this is what gets me, because like this is where I say like I could date it back, and why I'm very like hesitant. I've been hesitant since week one when they played the Commanders. I did not believe the
That was
Packers
week
were the
two.
week two. My apologies. Week
You're
two when
good.
they played the Commanders, I said it myself that is it that the Commanders lost, or that the Packers were able to kind of get away with a win against a Commanders team that wasn't at their best, that wasn't where they needed to be. Because the Commanders didn't look like the normal Commanders I usually have seen since last year, but the Packers also didn't play like the way that I thought they would play. So now that we sit here, and I'm saying this from my experience in the past being a Birds fan, in 2023 when we played to the standard of the teams that we played, we got out in the first round. And I don't want to make the take yet that the Packers are going to be first round exits, but I believe the path that they're going, if it does not change or alter in any sort of way, it's not really going to be looking good, I think,
It's going to
for
be
the
looking
Packers
likely for a first round exit.
for a first round
I'm
exit.
not. Yeah, I'm not even gonna disagree and say that that's out of question. I think the matchup depends a lot, and that'll probably give us a good idea once we get around to it. But I do still think they're a lock for a pretty high seed in the playoffs, either top two or like five as like the second or first wild card team. But we'll have more time to talk about the Packers further on. Let's move on to the Rams and the Saints. This game was pretty straightforward. They had a -14 spread in this game, and for some reason I kind of hesitated to take it. The Rams ended up winning this game 34-10. Devontae Adams two receiving touchdowns, and it just went about as expected. This Tyler Shuck first debut start for the Saints couldn't have come at a worse time. I mean, this Rams defense is really really disruptive up front, and Tyler Shuck is exactly the type of guy who seems to struggle with that the most. So it just was really unfortunate for him to get thrown out into that situation. They did kind of get the ball moving a little bit, like at certain points, but it just obviously, they're a much worse team than the Rams. But the Rams offense, everyone was healthy again. Puka Nacua went out, came back in. They were looking at an injury. He was okay. Kyron, same thing. But they balled out 34 points. Dan, any thoughts? Anything you feel like to take away from Rams Saints?
Yo,
Tyler Shuck's
they had
first
that
start.
they had that ball for a long time. That's all I'm gonna say because time of possession, the Rams had the ball for 43 minutes and 53 seconds compared to 16 minutes and 7 seconds that the Saints had the ball. For a rookie guy to have his first start against the Rams defense and give him 16 minutes, listen.
That is
I
brutal.
don't expect him to do shit. Okay, like you really can't. I give the Saints O line respect for only allowing one sack in this game, especially to a rookie quarterback in this situation. Like he could have been pressured a lot more. He could have been absolutely like boggled the way he was. I know he did throw an interception, but I mean, what do you expect? This is going to be a very like high level playoff defense. So it's best that he got that experience and it's, I'd rather him get his interception against a defense like this rather than playing like the Jets and you get an interception, you know what I mean? And then like not trying to like poo poo on the Jets, but there's a little bit more of a higher, I guess, standard like, oh man, I made an error against this
Yeah, yeah,
hot
yeah. No,
like
you're
this
right.
high NFC, you know what I mean? So to have
It's
that.
like throwing a pick six to the Bengals.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It's just like, what are we doing, chat? You know what I mean? It's not like how Justin Herbert today threw a pick six to the Titans
yeah,
defense.
that's
But
bad.
that is horrendous. Like,
Terrible.
like we can't talk about that, but we'll
Yeah,
get there.
we'll get there.
So, but no, Chuck, I like this. I like the fact that he was able to at least score, like do something. Be like, okay, first start, go out there, do your best, kid. Like that's how I
Yeah,
looked at him being out there
go
today
have a
was.
day.
Go have a day. Do what you got to do, man. And guess what? He pulled up 10 points on the Rams. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And hey, and for Matthew Stafford to get 34, guess what, brother? I expect you to do that. Devontae, I expect you to do that.
yeah,
So I don't really give you high praise for that because it's just what's expected. You know what I mean? The Rams O line needs to get a little bit better because you allowed 2 sacks on Stafford in this situation. But hey, you guys were able to come back. You did what you had to do. I can't really hate on it. But I give props to the Saints quarterback. Shuck,
yeah.
no problem. Heck yeah.
15 of 24, 176 yards, one passing
Yes, sir.
touchdown, one interception for Tyler Shuck in his first start. Not terrible. This has definitely
Nope.
been worse than that, and against much worse
Uh,
teams as you've kind of laid out. So yeah, good for Tyler Shuck. Like I said, reminds me of Daniel Jones, so I'm rooting for him a little bit. But we'll just have to see how his career, develops. Whether he's going to be a backup on the Saints moving forward, and they just draft someone else, or maybe he actually ends up being the starter. Maybe he gets hot towards the end of the season. He's an older guy, so we'll see when it comes to that. Moving on to our next game, we have the Broncos at the Texans. The Broncos were able to pull this one out, 18-15. Stroud was injured in this game, and the actual script of the game played out the way I thought it would. And I think the Texans would have won if C.J. Stroud was still in, but obviously the Broncos pulled it out. My prediction was 18-17 Texans. So I was really on to this game. Instead, the Broncos win 18-15. It kind of takes away from what you would kind of hope, to be able to take away from this game. The two best defenses going at it. You feel like you can kind of judge the offenses versus each other and see who can handle it, once they get into the playoffs. And they'll probably be in a situation like that again. But with Stroud going down, honestly, I'm not very impressed by the Broncos in this win. Personally, I'm not saying I want to move them down or anything, but Davis Mills was out there, and the Texans were shut out in the fourth quarter, and the Broncos scored 11 points in that fourth quarter. So it really was them coming back, after that injury to win this game. I think they would have lost, like I said, if Stroud was in there. So Texans are 3-5 now. The Broncos are 7-2. They survived. They get the win. They did what they were supposed to do. They won the game. But I'm just saying it was looking a little sketchy there. So
it was a hard win. It
Dan,
was a hard
any
win.
thoughts?
I mean, for me, right, to have Sertan out, what's it called? That was a really big deal. But Collins and
Higgins
the
and
other
Kirk had a
Higgins
good
and
day.
Kirk. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kirk came back. Yeah, yeah, yeah. and like they were able to thrive. It did upset me to see when what was it Stroud got his concussion, just because like yo, I'm telling you, these
Yeah,
dudes that had a 1 year break can't catch a break. Like, and it's really upsetting because I want to see Stroud back to
level he
that
was
kind
at
of
before.
mojo, yeah, that level exactly. So it's like it's almost like when he's like really starting to get there, bow, something hits him. Like, and now I guess now I'm curious, like once that happened, I thought the Broncos were just gonna it was gonna be like a 2 score game, 3 score, like it was gonna
Yeah,
be flying.
it was a
And that was only
struggle.
3 points. Yeah. And it was a freaking fight to the end. And that gives me kudos to the Texans defense to be able to really rally it up and get it going. But then that kind of shows me like this Broncos defense. Can you go into the playoffs? Muster up something crazy, muster up something good? Is this what's it, like what's going on here, Chief? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like what are we missing to be able to like really go to the next step? Like is Cortland your one? Do you need a better two? You know what I mean? Like it's not a running back problem, I don't think. And your tight end's Evan Ingram, so
Bo Nix, 18 of 37, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. 18 of 37. That is a pretty
uh,
bad completion percentage. He was only sacked once. He had a QBR of 53, a quarterback rating of about 69. And
Jalen Hurts
Dobbins,
would be a top 20 quarterback if he did some shit like that.
yeah, he would receive a lot of hate. You were talking about Sutton. He only had one catch, but it was a 30-yard touchdown. There's just no rhythm, I feel like, to this offense. It's like the opposite of the Vikings, where you know exactly what's going to happen. Jefferson's
Hmm.
going to have, just all things considered, the best wide receiver day. Then Addison, Hawkinson, they're going to do their thing. And the running backs will get involved. But it's just weird with this Broncos team. I think, like I said, I think I was really on to something with this Texans team. But without Stroud, if he's missing next week, they're probably gonna be 3-6. It's not gonna be looking good for them. But you never know. Maybe they can pull something out. But it's still 7-2 Broncos team. That's looking good for them. But let's move on to the Bills at the Chiefs. We'll probably come back to this a little bit more. I would assume after we cover all the games, but the Bills come out and win this one, 28-21. And in this game, Josh Allen and the Bills' run game was electric. James Cook had a very nice day. He had 27 carries for 114 yards on the ground. So that's a 4.2 average. Josh Allen punched in those two of those rushing touchdowns, and then so did Ty Johnson. Dalton Kincaid had probably his best day of the season, 6 catches,
Right.
101 yards, and a touchdown, a long of 47. He had a great day. And then overall on the Chiefs side, it was Rice doing his thing, being the number one wide receiver, 4 for 80, getting a rushing touchdown in there at the near the goal line. Kareem Hunt filling in for Pacheco, 11 for 50 on the ground and a touchdown. And then
Hmm.
Mahomes, he was honestly kind of bad, I thought, in this game. 250, no touchdowns and an interception. Don't get me wrong, he did a good job like coming back, but he had some really ugly deep ball throws that I just thought were like he's been doing it more and more. The more we've gone away from Tyreek Hill, where he just heaves it deep, and it just seems like no wide receiver ever knows where he's supposed to be, or Mahomes is actually just missing the throws. Right, that's always possible. So Bills were 7 of 12 on third down. Chiefs are 3 of 13. That's pretty, that's pretty indicative of how the Chiefs went down early in this game. It was 13-14, but then the Bills really, or it was 21-13 at half, and then the Bills scored the only touchdown in the third quarter. So it was just kind of tough for the Chiefs to come back from that. But the Bills are now 5-1 in the regular season, but still 0-4 in the playoffs against this team. It's like, what's going on? Does
What's
this
going on?
does this change the narrative for you at all? Really?
I mean, for me, no. To me, what gets me, it's the formula is the best way I can explain. The formula in which they beat the Chiefs every year in the regular season, they never decide to incorporate it into the playoffs. And what do I mean by that? It's the pressure on Mahomes. They were able to get an interception from him today. One
Yeah.
and two, they were able to keep the ball 10 minutes longer than Mahomes. The time of possession 34-45 to 25-15.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the less and less you keep Mahomes on the field, the more and more that you have like as a chance to put it in your own hands to be able to go and win the game, which is
Right.
what Josh Allen to be able to go and do that, and we can count on him to get that done. But then now you're depending on your defense to go and stop Mahomes. So it's like, and that's what I feel like every playoff has been. It's besides this last one, of course, that they went and tried to do the tush push the way normal, and then now all of a sudden we got chips in the football and we got the electrical
Measuring system.
measuring that goes on. So yeah, the measuring system and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So hey, like it's like I want them to be able to keep this formula because it's not like that when it comes to the playoffs. In the playoffs, it's flashy. They want to try to score as fast as possible. They want to be dominant. They want to start smacking them. But it's like
And
you want to
they abandon the game plan too when it doesn't work
ex,
for like one drive.
ex, yes, exactly. And that's what kind of gets me with them is that they just hit the panic button the moment like Josh Allen gets sacked or
Spam Josh Allen.
yeah,
Spam
spam
it
Josh
until
Allen.
it
Just keep running,
works.
run him the entire like yeah, exactly. It's like no, we don't do that, guys.
It's
We
like
don't
let him
like
throw the ball and make some plays and an extension or just run it with Cook. Like
exactly like Joe. Trust everybody else. Get the attention off of him, and then when it's off of him, he's gonna do crazy things, and that's
yeah.
just how it's always been with him. But when the playoffs happen, yo, the amount of QB sneaks I see that man run is like utterly ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like
and
it's like
it's as hard as it is to stop. It gets very easy to predict, which is half the battle. If you know what they're gonna do, you can
mhm.
prepare and make adjustments throughout the game, and maybe you win when it matters most. But I agree. I don't really understand why this is the way it is. That it's just the regular season that they have this success, and it's got to make you question: is there like a pressure issue with the Bills? Do they fold under pressure? Because it seems like the Chiefs never do that. I don't think I've ever seen the Chiefs not show up for a big game, but this Bills team, on primetime games versus the Falcons, in the playoffs versus the Chiefs, it's just they
It
panic.
gets a little scary.
Yeah, and
You,
it's you can't hate on them after this win, but
no,
it's kind of what it sounds like you and I are talking about it like it's like bad, but
it's like we're predicting their downfall, but
yeah,
we're just restating history.
we're expressing our frustration that this isn't what it looks like in the playoffs because we all want to see the Bills do good, but I think Dan, you hit the nail on the head with the fact that this team they just seem to panic and just spam him and it doesn't work. No quarterback can win all by themselves. That's what Lamar's problem usually is. So we can come
Exactly.
back. There's probably a good juicy question written in there, but this was another crazy game that happened this week, and that was the Bears and Bengals game. Um,
Ah, yes.
so this was just a wild game. There was so much that happened in it. There were 4 touchdowns scored in the fourth quarter. The final score was 47-42 Bears. The Bears are now 5-3. In second place for the division, I guess. The Bengals are 3-6. Their season is effectively over. Flacco, 470, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He had 47 pass attempts, 31 completions. And then on the other side, Caleb Williams. We've been talking a lot about him recently, but 20 for 34, 280, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And then on the ground, he also had 5 carries for 53 yards. And then in the receiving game, Caleb Williams had 2 receptions today. He had one that was, I think, a throwback screen that he ran for about 15 yards or something like that. And then they ran a sort of Philly special from like the
Mhm.
5 yard line, and he caught that for a touchdown. So Caleb Williams, altogether, rushing, receiving, he had 75 yards in this game and a receiving touchdown. And then he had 280 and 3 passing. I mean, this was a monster game by Caleb Williams against this really poor Bengals defense. They also had Kyle Monangai, Rutgers running back, 7th-round pick, filling in for DeAndre
Sure.
Swift,
Absolutely.
176 on the
Sure.
ground. And he also had 3 receptions for 22. So really big on him. Great fantasy scoop for anyone who was sharp enough to pick him up. And the Bengals, it was just Chase. T. Higgins had a monster day, 7 for 21, 2 touchdowns. You could just tell. Everyone went off in this game. There were some mistakes. Colston Loveland, that was the last one. I knew I was forgetting something.
Ah,
6
yes.
for
The rookie.
118, 2 touchdowns. And with the this
Game-winning
the
touchdown.
game-winning touchdown. They were down, and they throw it down the seam, and he breaks through like 3 tackles and takes off right down the middle of the field with about, I think it was like 30 or 20 seconds left in the
About that.
game. And what an amazing like just game overall. But letting up 42 points also to Joe Flacco and this Bengals team, which is we've seen them have some good days, but this was the best game that Flacco has had. So from this wild game, what is your biggest takeaway just in general from it? Pick
Oh,
any one thing.
the takeaway personally, it's like this defense from the Bears. Like we already knew the Bengals defense was horrendous. That's not. It's already been stated. It's already been done. This Bears defense. I'm talking about Montez Sweat. I think Byard's on that team. Fuller's on that. Like all these people that I feel like T.J. Edwards, former Eagle who went to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. Like these players. Terrell Edmonds is on that John, right? I think right. Edmonds is on that.
Yeah, and actually he had a pick six that got called back because he was touchdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, these names make me think: Are they past their prime and it's getting to the point where we're not here no more? Is this defensive scheme just fluky and streaky that it goes game to game when they want to play and when they don't want to play? Because to let up 40, what's it called? 42 points.
42. And your
42 points.
defensive coordinator, by the way, is Dennis Allen, Saints former head coach. So
Uh,
it's
uh-huh,
like
uh-huh.
you would think like, oh, typically you'd go, who's the coach? But like he's probably not the issue. It's got to be the
Yes.
players, right?
That's what I'm starting to really think. You know what I mean? That it's like you invested into the veteran kind of scheme of an offense or of a defense, but it's like, hey, like with an offense like the Bengals, I don't care how much experience you have, you can get burnt, bro.
Yeah,
Like you
Higgins was a monster
you
today.
can still get burnt, bro. It don't matter how long you play for. Like when you got Higgins and
Yeah,
Chase just
dude, the one catch he had, I saw him float in the air and just catch it right over top of the Bears corner's head, and the corner just fell down. And I was like, that is just one guy being so much better than the other guy, like,
the
so much
pros you
better
would
at
have to.
football.
Yeah. And so my takeaway, it's like I don't give Caleb his flowers personally. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't give anybody their flowers that you're gonna play a bad defense and it goes to a high scoring game like this. It's cool that you could keep going back and forth, but you're not gonna see the Bengals going into the playoffs possibly this year. You know what I mean? You're not gonna see um Flacco and then like this is not like the playoff caliber team for me to go and look at the Bears and be like, oh yeah, this is the team that we're looking for, like that they're gonna be doing anything. So no, it's like what I do give is like, yo, Flacco is still solid enough and able enough to stick around and yo, get it done. He's got the prime weapons, he's got the people around him.
Yeah,
And all he's got to do is just, yep, one read, bang, one read, one like,
470 passing yards.
like
At
for
at
real.
what is he? 40 years old now?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's 39.
So what it really showed me is that Joe Flacco is truly still impressive. Caleb still got a lot to work on, to get done and figure out. And this was a defense to show that, yeah, Ben Johnson's offense works. Now, how do you make it work when the pressure's on? That's
Seemed
the
like
real question.
all his incompletions were to Roma Dunze, which I don't
Yo,
appreciate.
that dude did not touch. Yo, he didn't get a point today. I don't
Zero.
think. Yo, this is probably the most upsetting thing I have ever
His
seen.
his downfall in terms of fantasy needs to be studied. Dude was wide receiver 3 through like 4 weeks, and then ever since then, it's just been this. It's been
Yeah.
who knows what's gonna happen, but yeah, that was a crazy game. But we had another crazy game happen in the 4 o'clock slate that I don't think anyone was expecting. And this one featured the return of an all-pro caliber player who had been injured for quite some time. But in this game, he went absolutely off, and that is Brock Bowers in an overtime thriller that finished in a score of 30-29 Jaguars. Brock Bowers had 12 receptions for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was an absolute monster in this game. Geno Smith, 29 to 39, 284, 4 passing touchdowns and 1 interception. So that's probably the best game he's had in quite some time, I would say, against a Jaguars defense that's played really well. This game was really low scoring. It was 9-6 going into the fourth quarter. And then you had 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and the 2 in overtime. One by the Jaguars with the extra point and one in response with the Raiders, who went for 2 and did not get it. So a lot of very interesting moving parts in this game and what to take away. The Jaguars are now 5-3 and looking like they're kind of avoiding like the negative questions that are kind of arising around them. They just lost Travis Hunter. That would seem like a massive, hit. He's on the IR, so he could be back come playoffs, but very scary. But in this game against a Raiders team that showed a lot of resiliency, that they're the ones who pull it out. They were above 50% on third down. They had a pretty ugly game in terms of penalties, which has been a common theme for them this year. 3 of 5 in the red zone, but they completely dominate time of possession, 43-26 or 27.
27, yeah.
So that is a massive difference in time of possession, nearly an entire quarter, or is that even a quarter? 43-27. That would be.
That's like almost 2.5 quarters right there.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, it was almost the same as the Rams Saints game, where it's just a complete domination. Except this one was actually able to be close, which really shows you how many explosive plays this Jaguars defense was allowing to Brock Bowers. Ashton Genty had a nice play down in the red zone that converted for a touchdown on a little swing pass that he made a guy miss and then cut it inside and swerved his way into the end zone. It was really fun seeing those two back on the field, and the Raiders season is effectively over. They're 2-6. And I guess we kind of knew Geno Smith was going to be a bit of a bridge guy. But you got to feel a little better moving forward about, just that for the rest of this season. And then for the Jaguars, I don't really know if you can feel that great coming out of this game because I know Bowers is back, but this Raiders team was nothing special at any point this season. So do you feel better about the Jaguars now? Do you feel worse? Because I think we all feel better about the Raiders.
Yes, definitely. They're definitely better about the Raiders. It kind of shows that the young talent's able to blossom. They're doing what they need to do. Now it's just let's build the pieces to be able to make it something. Um, but definitely for sure, my question really is it the weapons or is it T Law? And I love T Law, bro. Like I'm a Clemson guy. I'm a Clemson fan. Speaking of that, like a young guy, I'll explain that later. I found it to be funny, but Brian Thomas Jr. was not, I don't think, as effective as I thought that he was going to be
Yeah,
today.
he
He
came
what
out and
three
went back
three
in.
receptions for yeah, 3 receptions for 55 yards going into today. So it's like against a Raiders defense, I thought, yo, this was gonna be your comeback game. I thought this was gonna be the
Yeah,
game that was like he's back, he's flourishing, he's doing what he has to do because they had a bye last week, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
So it was just your time, and sadly, it wasn't today. They did run the ball well today. I think they completely rushed them. It was like 151 yards or something like that compared to the Raiders like 70 or something like that. It was
yeah.
yeah,
150 to
151 to
57.
57.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
So it's like you got almost 3 times the rushing yards as them, and so ETN and
Tootin.
210. Yeah, 210.
And then even LaQuint Allen Jr. got in there, a carry for 10. T-Law vultured 2 touchdowns from these running backs. They gave a carry, probably a jet sweep to Diami Brown. Yeah, they were doing Liam Cohen things today in the run
Exactly.
game.
So they were doing what needed to be done in terms of the run game, but it's like, yo, T Law, like he is one of those quarterbacks that you look at as like a really good passer, and it's like not. there today. You know what I mean? For
Mm-hmm.
for the Raiders to be for Geno Smith to outthrow T Law today really threw me back, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Because like this is not one
Right,
like T
yeah,
Law should
and
be the
Gino hasn't
gunslinger.
done this for a while.
Exactly, 100%. So it's just it's upsetting because now I don't know whether it's the offensive scheme they have now because they were able to do it last year. So what are the things that have changed? You added Travis Hunter. I don't think he's the problem, and you added a new head coach and offensive mindset. So I feel like there's a lot of underlying rift inside the Jaguars team, but who knows? But as far as them and what I feel and what they could do, not that good. And my funny comment was gonna be, I remember when I was watching the game, what's it called, 2 weeks ago, Big Pops, when it was in, they were in London, and I was sitting there asking myself, like, man, I haven't seen Kayvon Walker in like a hot minute. What the heck happened? And I just saw today on Instagram that this dude got like ejected. He straight up socked the freaking offensive lineman, like uppercut straight into the chin strap. And I'm like, what in the heck is
Dude,
going on here?
that
Like,
is ridiculous. Him and Allen are something that should have made this game an easy win, but that makes a lot of sense.
so yeah, so that could also like, been one of those things where, hey, could your emotions be getting you to the point where this is why the Jaguars look like that? But that it's just they should never been this close. The Raiders, they deserve the flowers really today. I feel like the Raiders took the win, even though they
Bowers is
took
a
the loss.
monster, dude. I
Yo,
have
an
him in half
absolute
PPR,
monster.
53 points right now, or a tight end premium, not half PPR.
Yeah.
He one of the best tight end receiving games, honestly, I've ever seen. If you really
Hmm.
think about it, 3 touchdowns, 12 receptions, and 120 yards has got to be up there for some of the best tight end performances all time. I mean, the level of play that we get from Brock Bowers, first year of his career, year two now, coming off a PCL sprain and doing that, I mean, is pretty insane. Level of play. What a superstar Brock Bowers is. But there's only one game left that has already occurred. We'll give a little recap or a check in of the Commanders game after we do this one, and then we'll maybe answer some questions. But that last game is Chargers at Titans, and this was a very shaky game for the Chargers to start off this game, throwing a pick six to this Titans defense that is in just shambles, really. And this has been one of the worst teams of the 2020s that we've seen. And you allowed this game to be, as close as it was, and even the Titans leading early on in the first half in the first quarter. So, really ugly start, but the Chargers they kind of rally back, and it reminded me a lot of that Dolphins game where it almost got away from them, but this would have been even way worse if you lost to this team. So, what were some other things besides the defensive turnover or the pick six, excuse me, that really swung this game for the Chargers? Well, they were 7 of 13 on third down compared to the Titans being 1 of 9. So it clearly wasn't that, and it wasn't this time of possession because they had 34-20 to 25-40. The Titans had more penalties, seven penalties versus 3. Red zone, Chargers were 3 of 4, and the Titans were 0 for 2. So far, pretty much every single stat I've read has been in favor of the Chargers. The Titans were Cam Ward was 12 of 21 in this game passing for like 120 yards. Herbert did have an interception
Hmm.
with the pick six, and that was really the only one of any. That's the only stat on the whole you know over team summary or game summary that you can really pick out of this game that really went against the Chargers. But I would say the Titans, they have Tyjae Spears back to go along with Tony Pollard. They did have 19 for 88 on the ground, 4.6 yards per carry. Even though they were 1 for 9 on third down, clearly that helped them, produce the other 2 field goals they had after their pair of touchdowns in the first quarter, and just kind of slowly bleed away the time so that the Chargers couldn't come back. But it was too little, too late. And this is just, I don't know. It was kind of a weird performance to see from the Titans because, as I stated, it really wasn't like much had changed. They just kind of had that early lead, and it was like everyone watching, inevitably knowing that eventually it was going to, be a Chargers, lead at some point in the game, and it was. So Justin Herbert played really well to make that, kind of come back and redeem himself in that game, which you really like to see. But they really miss Omari Hampton on the ground. Justin Herbert was their leading rusher in this game, 9 for 57 and a rushing touchdown. So Gadsden still looks good though. I guess that's the one note I would say. But
That's a good
weird
point.
game for the Chargers, Dan. What do you think about it?
Yo, for freaking sure. Listen, this is what gets me is because in reality, if this team was worth its salt, right? The Titans defense was able to force more errors. And it's almost like they were able to like hold up, like coming out. The Chargers allowed 6 sacks. Herbert was sacked 6 times this game, allowing also having an interception, and they had one less punt than the Titans. When in reality, it's the skill set that the Chargers have compared to the Titans, plus the Titans losing their head coach, plus having a rookie quarterback, plus not having any really big name weapons on the team, for it to be a seven
Absolutely
point
none.
difference. Exactly. Like I'm not even gonna lie. Like absolutely.
I mean, Pollard and Spears are fine running backs. That's about it. They're
But
fine.
that's yeah. So it's to have the really like the scale of differences that these two teams have. And you're like, so what do you think the score would be? I promise you, nobody would say 27-20. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like so looking like at that grand scheme, it's like as a Chargers fan, if I was looking at it, I would sit there and be like, oh my gosh, like
We said the
in the
spread
press,
should be bigger.
yeah, we did. We were like, this spread should like this should be the defining win for the Chargers to make everybody be like, Herbert is that guy. And
Yeah.
guess what? He showed again
He's got a bit of an
why.
ugly side.
You know what I'm saying? Why it's a little hesitant to really like this guy because like what was this today? You know, this was like your opportunity, your kind of statement thing. But there was also what I mentioned to you beforehand, Scott, like Scooter. Remember when I told you like the Titans could look at this game like a big mojo game. Like we just lost the coach, we just had this opportunity.
Hmm.
Like we have all this free play called. Let's get this shit back. And yo, they could have just played and just had no script. It was just get your man and let's try to play ball.
Yeah.
And yo, maybe that's what it could have been. You know what I mean? They could have just completely shocked the Chargers team that came in here thinking it was going to be an easy win, like the Eagles did beforehand this early in the season. Um, but I definitely like. So now, Michael, I guess my curiosity to you, Scooter, is like, do you think this almost loss, right, to the like if the Chargers were to lose to the Titans, it would have been worse as the Eagles losing to the Giants?
Yeah. Losing to the Titans?
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, the
Okay.
Eagles are probably, should rank higher than the Chargers. I'm pretty sure they do in my list. But the Titans are the worst team in football. It could be the Saints in a couple weeks, depending on how things change and develop
For
through
sure.
Mike McCoy, the new head coach. But as of now, it's them. And this
For sure.
could change that a little bit. This is a great Chargers team. They played pretty solid throughout the rest of the game to try to hold on to that lead. But I think we saw a big reason why, they haven't been able to win. I mean, the games that they have won, or the game, excuse me, the single game. I thought it was one game against the Cardinals was a total fluke. It was the craziest like sequence of events ever. It was like a Madden game the way they won that. It was
Mhm.
ridiculous. I mean, the dropping the ball before the end zone, the fumble that got kicked like 20 yards into the end zone. Like in a 2 minute drill. It's just like stuff like that makes me think how lucky this team is they won that game because I don't think they're going to win a game for the whole rest of the season unless they run into some really cocky playoff team or beaten up team and they just show up completely unprepared. Like it's the only way. They've got so many issues, so many lacks of talent on this team. It would be so bad if you were to be a playoff team and lose to this team. The Giants at least had Scadaboo, Dart, The line
Yep.
was playing a little better. You guys had injuries that we knew about. This Chargers team, it wasn't like the injuries. It was like, no, you threw a pick six directly to a backup level defense. You know, like
Yeah.
it was like to start the game. Like it was like it happens, just not usually against teams like that. So I
Yeah.
bring up what you said before about that, where it's kind of like relative, success and failure, depending on what you're going up against. I would much rather see that against the '07 Patriots than the 2025 Titans. Let's just say that.
Exactly.
So it's a real thing.
It is a
Um,
real thing, 100%.
okay. Um, I feel like that's all I really have to say about Chargers Titans. But I think we can come back to Chiefs Bills if you'd like, because I kind of want to reframe this into. Would you change your list in terms of AFC teams? Like, is the Bills now the top AFC team, or are the Chiefs now dropping or staying
To
at
me,
first place?
if I could put like I'm definitely knocking the Chiefs down. I definitely would knock the Bills down. I feel like
You mean you move them up? The
oh yeah,
Bills?
move them up. My
Yeah.
fault.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
butchered that question as well, so it kind of was contagious towards you. That's why that happened.
it's all good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We have that. But so for me, the Bills definitely. I feel like at this moment have to be the number one team in football as of right now. The Chiefs, of course, I feel like would only have to be two. I feel like it was so close in that situation, and what's funny is how it blew up all over social media that the moment that Mahomes got that intentional grounding, and he tapped it or whatever, and then it got challenged, and everybody put on social media like, "Oh, it's rigged! Oh,
Yeah.
it's rigged! What are we doing? The refs are helping us."
Blasphemy.
Bless, like, bro, like, come on now, like, and it's like I'm gonna pull it both like two-way street in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, of course, like, I forgot who brought up the stat to me about 85% of the calls in the playoffs go towards the
There
Chiefs.
was a study that it was in at a I forget the university, but they investigated all of the calls, all the penalties in the playoffs that have occurred, and the Chiefs. They noticed that, like, I think it was somewhere between I think you're right. I think it literally was 80%. And I have something I wanna add, but I'll let you go finish your thought. But you're right. There was a study done, and it heavily favors the Chiefs in the playoffs.
So to me, it's like it's when you're as a Chiefs fan, you know what I mean. I respect it 100%. Do what you got to do, but like just like how I don't have the right as an Eagles fan to talk about like when we win or anything like that, and like how we do it
I
or
mean,
whatever
you
the case
guys
is.
just last week against the Giants had a record amount of calls go your way.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So it's like, but I would never have came in here. Like I didn't come in here, of course, into the podcast and being like, "You see how the Giants?" It's like no. It's like I saw what happened. I recognize what happened. But that's what gets me about the Chiefs. That it's like when it's against them, everybody will blow up. As
yeah,
a Chiefs fan, like, do you see this blasphemy?
yeah.
It's like study shows.
You
Hop
guys,
off.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Like
guys are never
never
discredited.
not.
You guys are never not taken into account.
Yeah. Exactly.
You guys always get a little something. So, in this game, you're right. You know, when it comes to the officiating, and the Chiefs actually is what I wanted to respond to. There is a piece of that. I'm not going to say it's the whole picture, in that there hasn't been some calls that went the Chiefs' way that shouldn't have, like a couple first downs in the AFC Championship or anything like that. But overall, what I will actually say is, when it comes to penalties in the playoffs, really, really great playoff teams, really, really elite ones play clean in the playoffs. And the dynasties, that is why they stay dynasties, because they have good game plans, they're well prepared, they make good decisions, and they don't commit penalties in bad situations. And a lot of that has to do with your quarterback. Your quarterback can get a ton of penalties, the way he moves around your line, and things of that nature. You know, if he makes the lineman's job easier to block, then they don't have to hold as often. So all these things pieced together, my whole point is this Chiefs team with the modern GOAT quarterback, maybe the best modern coach of all time after Bill Belichick, and then Spagnuolo, great defensive coach. I don't think it's too far off to say, hey, let's give the coaching staff and the quarterback and the culture at this organization some respect, because it's clearly a reason why they play so clean and they get away with some of the stuff is because they are trying to. They're trying to work those margins and force other teams to match their level of that. And most of them can't do it. And I think that's why a lot of teams look silly versus the Chiefs and end up losing in dumb ways, because they're trying to get cuter than the Chiefs. So I definitely think a disproportionate amount goes to the Chiefs. But I will say, I think I'm not going to say it's proof that the NFL is rigged because, the Chiefs get most penalties going their way. Maybe they're just a disciplined football team,
Yeah, I would just take, to me, it's like, yeah, like for situational football, it's like you definitely prep for those kind of things. You're definitely playing. I feel like with Spagnuolo defense, of course, it's like not just about the play style or the play, like the scheme, but it's also the mental game that I feel like they have in terms of like how physical they are, the banter after the play's
Mm-hmm.
over, the banter before the play's over. You
Mm-hmm.
saw
The
Chris Jones
rage
when he played the
baiting.
Eagles. Yeah, the rage baiting basically, But even Chris Jones, for example, when the game was over against the Eagles,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just like, "Mother, like you don't even got 100 yards," and yada yada yada. Like it's like most teams that have that rivalry will bite that so hard, i.e., the Bills, the Bengals, the Ravens. Like, why is it that they like crash out and lose it? It's because they take it and the Chiefs run away with the game because they're out of the game
Mm-hmm.
mentally. Why were the Bengals able to beat them the first time? It's because Jamar and Joe Burrow didn't give two ish about what they
And
said. They
they're
were like,
disciplined.
and they were
Joe
disciplined
Burrow
about.
is equally disciplined quarterback that can avoid those situations for you.
100%. So that's why playing teams that you could rage bait is why I always say the Chiefs always have that kind of how do I say extra step ahead of everybody else. Like the day they beat the Bengals, or that game where they beat the Bengals, and the player who tore his ACL trying so hard to stop himself.
Yeah.
And I remember Scooter, we
You're
watched the
talking about
game together.
Mahomes crashing into
When he crashed into the sideline bench, the
oh
Bengals
yeah.
bench, and they
Yeah.
pushed because they said that they pushed them outside, like out of bounds.
Yeah.
But this dude legitimately tore his ACL trying his
Or he
absolute
like
hardest to
pulled his
stop
hammy.
himself,
I think it was a pulled hammy, but it could have been an
or pulled
ACL.
hammy. Yeah, but the way it looked like ACL. But yeah, it might have been a pulled
He
hammy. And
hyperextended his leg.
yeah, horrendously.
Yeah, it was
And he was
bad.
just crying on the sideline because they got the field goal and they won the game. But it's like
He was dumb for that though. He was for
he
trying
was.
to
I'll
do
give him
that.
like
It was
for
like
sure.
I was so mad when that happened. And I was watching it with you, and I was saying it shouldn't have been called in the moment.
Yeah,
But
the moment we were just like, "Are you really gonna be the ref
yeah,
to make a call like this at this very moment, bro?"
yeah.
And it's like,
It's
but look at
it's
it back.
it's tough to see, but it's just as important as a football team to as it is to say pursue and make a tackle, to not do that, right? To not hit someone is a good idea sometimes. It sounds so dumb, but listen to what we just described about how a decision to hit someone costed another team an AFC championship. It is that those types of things that I think the Chiefs excel at, and is why they win a lot of those games, because they don't do stuff like that, and they do all the little things right, and that's just who they are. So yeah, I think for me at least, going back to the original question, I don't really see the narrative changing. Honestly, like it's gonna be tough for me because I am gonna kind of have to consider putting the Bills above the Chiefs, because you would think that would make sense. But if we're still talking Super Bowl, it's like, to me, I don't have to just look at this season. Like, we saw the same thing happen last year, and I was convinced because of it the Bills were going to win, and then they lost again. So I think it's still an interesting question, if you'd still have the Bills ahead of the Chiefs, or if you'd move them up there. But overall, I think this was another this is once again the craziest week and season of NFL parody we've had. honestly, the top 10 lists and all that stuff is anyone's game because you
Could
could
be
lay it out so many
unbelievable.
ways. We just saw the Lions lose to the Vikings. We saw most people's number one team just lose to a team that was losing a lot of momentum. It's been an absolutely crazy season. But one thing I just want to do now is just check in on that Commanders game because man, it is absolutely hideous. I mean, Jaden
How
Daniels is 4 of 7 with 36 passing yards and an interception. And the
oh,
Seahawks, Sam Darnold is 10 for 10 with 142 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Torrey Horton has 3 catches for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then Elijah Arroyo has a 26-yard touchdown catch. What a day for this Seahawks team. I mean, it looks like they've already got it won. Jaden Daniels would have to do something truly incredible to manage to win that game. But right now it's looking ugly for him.
what did I tell you? Garbage time touchdown in the prediction show about what was gonna happen. It was gonna be a big. I feel like the Seahawks were gonna come in, make a big statement, and maybe Jaden Daniels, like I said, could work some magic later on when they're a lot less when they take the foot off the gas, and it's just gonna be garbage time touchdowns. I'm telling you, It's sad to say because I would love to see what scary like Terry would look like in this kind of setting
Yeah,
with Debo, but
we haven't really
yeah,
gotten that very much this year.
not at all.
All right. Well, we've got Cowboys Cardinals tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the rest of this Commanders game. Maybe we can get some garbage time points because I could certainly use some. And
Oh yeah,
yeah, on Tuesdays we'll be back with the top 10 lists. Another week where those are going to be changing pretty wildly, and we'll have some discussions defending some of our stances and deciding where we agree. And then me and Dan did the prediction show on Saturday. We're hoping to do that on Fridays. But that one is the one day that is still, I would say, in flux where we're still kind of deciding what day is going to be best for that. But we know we're going to do it someday between Thursday and Saturday. I can tell you
for
that for
sure.
sure. And you can always count on the Sunday Instant Reaction, which is the show right here where we cover all the games that happened on the Sunday slates. And we are supposed to talk about the NFC East teams and their games. But as I mentioned, 1.5 games have occurred for an NFC East team so far this week. So there's a little bit less to talk about. Hopefully we get Joey back soon. Would love to have him back for the top 10 list so he can finally make his adjustments that people have been waiting for so eagerly. And he can bless us with some more of his sound effects. If you guys are watching the stream right now, please drop a like to support the channel and check the link in my description for Dan's channel, Debate with Dan. And you can find the channel link there and give him a subscription and subscribe to me if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section because this will go up as a video after it's done. Dan, do you have anything else for the audience?
Listen, man, it's been a great time. It's been a vibe. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know we didn't talk about it, but that Steelers defense brought Daniel Jones back to his
Oh,
factory settings.
yo, wait, we
So
got to
you
talk
want to talk
about
about
that.
it?
Hold on, I
You want to
forgot
talk
about
about
that.
it?
Yeah, no, we got to talk about that. I completely forgot about that one, which
You're
I don't know
good.
how. I scrolled past it. I would assume. Yeah, I did not have it. Did not have it emboldened, but that was the other craziest game this week. Besides the Packers losing to the Panthers, was this Steelers Colts game because this was a game where I'm gonna be quite honest. As a Giants fan, this was a little traumatic for me to watch this from Daniel Jones again because what we saw from Daniel Jones in this game was just very much the same of what we would see from him in the Giants games
I
where
feel like it was the first time he saw pressure.
yeah, where he really saw a lot of pressure. The Steelers defense is very good. And it's very good against Daniel Jones is what I'm trying to say because they've had some bad weeks recently. But this Colts offense has been the best in football, and JT's been unstoppable. But now the Steelers defense may have put the blueprint out there of how to stop this Colts offense. And the Colts do sort of find their way back into this game and make it 20-27. So the Steelers are just barely holding on. But the Steelers lost time of possession. The Colts had more yards per completion. They had better third down efficiency is what it looks like to me. And I don't know, it was just the interceptions and the turnovers by this Colts offense that really put them in a bad situation. I mean, they had the lead early, but the Steelers tied it up after the Colts fumble, and then they scored back-to-back touchdowns, went up 14-7. The Colts punted twice, and then interception, field goal, fumble, touchdown, interception, field goal. So just kind of up and down throughout the whole game. This is what I was used to seeing. A lot of it was really ugly. A lot of deer in headlights. Not seeing T.J. Watt, race around your not your blind side. Your seeing
side,
your
like
seeing
you see
side.
him.
And
You
just
hear him breathing.
yeah, like you should be able to kind of sense that in some way. And he just stood there, and that like I said was very reminiscent. So big questions about the Colts, man. After this game, it was very very, very questionable loss
Very
to a 4-3 Steelers team that had some pretty ugly losses on the defensive side, and this Colts
We were
team is
just
now
talking about
7-2.
how bad they were.
Huh?
So we were just talking about last week how bad the Steelers defense was. Like,
Yeah, it was a really surprising outcome by that unit, especially. What do you think about the Colts when it comes to potentially winning the 1 seed for the AFC? Because the Bills are going to be pushing for it. The Chiefs are going to be pushing for it. They play the Chiefs in a couple weeks now. Do you think they're going to be able to win that game and potentially take the 1 seed still, or how do you feel?
I mean, I think they can still find the mojo back. Of course, I think this was an eye-opening game, saying the Colts are fantastic, but they're still very beatable. I do think, of course, you found the blueprint, but I do believe I know Steichen, bro. Steichen's gonna find a way to make adjustments to make sure that hey, if this is what's going on, this is what he needs to do, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like at least now I could see that the remnants of old Daniel Jones is still there in the sense of like once he starts getting pressure, he starts panicking. And that's what was always one thing that got me as Daniel Jones as a quarterback is that I don't feel like he has great pocket awareness of
No,
when the
it's not
pocket's
good at all.
collapsing. And it's like he doesn't know when, and he has the legs for it. That's the thing that gets me. It's like he has the legs to be able to take that step back, run a nice wheel, get some space, boom, throw it on the run, throw it away, do something. But instead, he's just like going through his reads, just believing, like, I'm going to see something, I'm going to see
Yeah.
something, I'm going to see something. And it's like he does it, and then boom, fumble, sack. Like, that's all it was for him. And that's where it kind of got me too, because I was watching. It was towards the end. I was seeing. Okay, I was like, oh my god! It was like 20. It was like 24-27. It was basically a one score game, or they could have tied it. And yo, Daniel Jones was going down the field. Boom, Pittman, back to back. I'm like,
Right.
man, we got something rolling. They're going, and then I see him drop back, and in my mind, I was like, he's going to, because he was throwing two wide open passes. And one thing, I don't know why Jones loves to do this, but he loves to throw like in traffic.
He tries to fit it in the window.
You know what I'm saying?
Because he
Always.
will throw over the middle. He can see over the line. It's just he's like
Yeah.
slow to process, so it's always not always late, but like it's late sometimes.
It'd be late sometimes. And that's what got me because it was like, if they could have made that drive, bro, Daniel Jones right now would be here in this moment. We'd be talking about MVP,
Yeah, how he
comeback guy,
came back.
yada,
Yeah,
all that shit in between. But now, what do we look at it? Old school Daniel Jones. Why? Because in
literally
that drive,
rookie year, 5
literally,
turnovers, 2 fumbles,
yeah.
and 3 picks. Like that's really bad game, and they lost by only a touchdown. So just imagine if they didn't have one. Now I do want to add that they outgained the Steelers in pretty much every offensive metric. It was literally just the fact that they had 6 turnovers and the Steelers only had 1. So it's like, you know, obviously you hate that they had 6 turnovers and they lost, but you feel like this is something that can be addressed. You know what I mean? They can work on
Mhm.
this, and
For sure.
it's better that this happened now. I would say it's better that this happened now. I don't think it's necessarily the blueprints out there, even though I know I said that. What I think more is it's an opportunity for the Colts to learn what to do from a game plan standpoint for Daniel Jones, so that he doesn't turn it over 6 times. And yeah, I mean we're just gonna have to see how they get it done in the Chiefs game because they're a benchmark team. Bills just got a benchmark win over them. Colts are going to be up there in the AFC. They need to be right there because those three teams are going to be battling for that 1 seed. So it's going to be very important to see if they can also win that game.
For sure.
All right. I wish I didn't do the outro before we talked about the Colts and Steelers game, but it'll be there in the timestamps. So it is what
It's all
it
good.
is. It's all good.
It's all good.
But hey,
Heck yeah. So then,
yeah, now like again, if you haven't already, because we squeezed that in there and we get it done for you guys. You know, Dan holds me accountable when I'm making a mistake, and that's why this show is so great. Yeah, see, we're rhyming now too. So
yeah.
all right. I think we covered pretty much everything. I said we should probably end the stream here. We still got Tuesday where we could talk about the Commanders and the Cowboys game in full once they've already occurred and kind of the rest of the NFC stuff. And then we'll do our top 10 list. We also got the trade deadline this week, which I'm super hyped for. I didn't mention that. A lot of moves should be going down. Hold on to those handcuffs on your fantasy teams because players are going to be moving around. Now, Dan, I know I already asked you this and you had something for me. Let me ask you again. Do you have anything left for me in the audience?
No, all I gotta say is, guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing out, guys. We love doing this shit every Sunday, Tuesday, and we figuring out Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna keep it rocking, and guys, we're gonna catch you Tuesday.
All right, guys. Peace out.